What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the pod. If you live in Atlanta and you love cars, you know Dani Freedman. In charge of the branding for Butler Tire, every athlete, actor, rapper goes through his shop. What you don't know is his background. We learn how an introvert is able to recharge and give his full energy into his work. We talk cars, why I took a break from social media and supercar content, how to leverage social media to grow a brand, and his personal struggles that have pushed him to be the man he is today. It's another great conversation. Strap in, because we're about to roll. As always, share if you enjoy. We're growing every day from your continued support. I appreciate you all. Gentlemen, start your engines. Let's ride.
I'm an introvert, okay? And when you put an introvert with an extreme extrovert together, the end result is an omnivert.
Yeah.
It's exactly like in my personal life, I'm an introvert by nature, but my job forces me to be an extrovert. So you have to come up with a hybrid of the two.
I never took you as an introvert.
Complete.
Really?
Yeah.
You prefer solitude.
Yeah, I mean, my analogy is that introverts spend coins when they interact with people or have to exert energy. And at the end of the day, they need to be able to retreat in order to recharge and regenerate those coins in order to be able to spend them again. And extroverts actually spend coins when they don't interact with people. So they gain coins when they do. And that's the difference, is that I do at certain points have to retreat back to my little corner, my comfort zone, where it's quiet, where, people can call me, can talk to me, and I recharge. And then once I'm recharged, I'm good to go. But at a certain point, like, my coins are depleted.
I feel like I may be the same way. I like being alone. And maybe it's because I'm an only child and I'm used to it. But my wife will be like, "You've been home and you haven't talked to anyone in like hours." I'm like, "Awesome." She's like, "Oh, you're not gonna hang out with me?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. Just leave me alone. I'm fine."
I think a long time ago, and it's funny, us as humans, you go through like different stages within your life. And you realize things that used to entertain you don't, and you sort of mature and you grow accordingly. And I found out very, very quickly that being alone is okay, and that it's good for you. If you're able to be comfortable by yourself, you could pretty much be put into any situation and still be okay with it. Do I enjoy being alone all the time? I would have to say 80% of the time, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like you. If I don't talk to anybody or see anybody, I'm okay. But eventually I do have to crawl out my hole and get some interaction. I mean, when COVID hit and I've got a heart condition, went to the doctor and I'm like, "Look, what do I need to do here?" And he said, "We don't know enough about it." This was right in the beginning. He said, "Just to be safe, go and work from home." I was like, sweet. Went to the office, said, "Listen, guys, I'm at home. If you need me, call me." Went home and I was like, this is perfect. Like, I don't have to interact with anybody. I can just be at home. And I was so much more productive at home. At the time I was married and, my wife was working from home, and she had been for many years, but I got to, wake up, have breakfast, work, have lunch, take a little bit of a break here and there. But the productivity went through the roof. There's so many distractions when you're at the office. The days of just sitting at your desk and having a task and following through with that task without being disturbed is crazy.
Especially in your role where it's constantly putting out fires and everyone's got a problem. They're coming to you with different issues. And it's hard to get in the zone when you just get pulled in so many directions constantly.
I've learned now, like, and that's, it's sort of like an internal battle that I have, because there's two personas. Okay, there's my personal life, which you're very familiar with. As a good friend of mine, I confide in you, and I have in the past with a lot of what's going on with me personally. But then you have the Dani Butler persona, and you have to wear multiple hats, and then you have to understand when to wear one hat and when to wear the other. But I found now recently that people respect closed doors. It's almost like it's a genius thing. There might be a lot of people that disagree with me and have an open door policy. My door's always open and all you got to do is knock. But if I do have to get into a zone and focus and get things done, I'm definitely closing my door. I've got the music going, and that's how I find that I get into a zone and I complete tasks. Otherwise, it's like you said, I mean, part of my job, Matt, which sucks so much, is I have to go around to all the stores and tell people what they're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. And every now and then I get the opportunity to praise them and tell them what they're doing right. But for the most part, in order to maintain the quality that we sort of set, you have to go out there and tell people what they're doing wrong. And it sucks. It really, really does suck.
Got to give some people bad news.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you differentiate personal from business? I understand that fine line, and I think my business partners understand that. But sometimes employees can take it a little personal, and you just got to understand how to talk to them,
And people are a little more sensitive these days than they used to.
Everybody's sensitive. It's just crazy.
Everyone's so triggered.
It's, even driving here, I was on the highway, okay? And I have the mentality, okay? Even if I'm in a rush, if someone's trying to get in my lane, what's the point of cutting them off and not allowing them to get in the lane? Like, what are you going to accomplish? Is it going to save you 3 seconds? But no, instead of doing that, you accelerate when you see me. The worst thing in Atlanta you could ever do is put a turn signal on. You put it on and people just block you.
Yeah. They're like, not today.
Yeah. So you pull into the lane and then you sort of wedge yourself in there. And then what do? They honk at you. And it's just like, I find people are so angry nowadays, and I don't know. I've been on a different mission for 23. And I'm like, no longer going to live a stressed out, pissed off life.
Let it go.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much more out there and so much good shit going on that if you focus on the bad, man, that's what you're just going to attract.
I think that's part of the reason I really wanted to start this podcast. It's that I wanted to bring out the best in people. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have conversation, let people learn from other people's experience. But at the same time, it's so easy to get clicks by being negative. That's the easy route on the internet. If you want to take over the internet, be negative. It's so easy. But to do it doing positive content, it's fucking difficult.
You know what? That's the society that we live in, unfortunately, and I get pissed off. If I click on something and it's clickbait, I'm like, fuck these guys, like I got duped, and I think to myself, I'm smarter than that,
But it happens again.
Yeah. And it happens again and again and again. But I think, as I was saying, like people go through different phases, and it's interesting. I've known you for over 10 years now, and I've seen the different phases that you've gone through, and I've been a part of them for a long time, for many of them, but I always know that when you go quiet, that you something's simmering, and that eventually, like and that's why, you can talk to each other every single day, or you cannot talk to each other for a few weeks or a few months, and then when you do call, I'm like, okay, he's got some shit to talk about, And
I think that's a gauge of a good friend also, is that you don't have to see them all the time. But when you do get together, it's like you never missed a beat. No. And there's some people in life that you have that with. And sometimes when you see someone for a while, it seems so forced. And then you realize we actually weren't actually that close.
You know what? This past year has been just the hardest year of my life. And, I think everybody's got different challenges in life. And I think that you go through different things within your life that make you who you are and make you stronger. And the friends thing is one of them. I had the tightest group of friends in the entire world, 15 plus year friendships. And, as with our friendship, I don't just allow people into my life just because I've got nothing else to do. But I think that the reality is that sometimes you got to step back and understand that the way that you consider relationships or friendships is not necessarily the same way another person would. And, being the person that I am, I have such strong morals, and I refuse to stray from them. I won't let outside influences sort of change my mind about it. It's like I feel strongly about something and I'm going to stick to it. But learning in this past year that that's not necessarily true on the other side is a harsh reality that sometimes you have to come to. But, you know what, again, like I never look at it as like you failed, you know, it's like, what can I learn from this and take it as a lesson? But I do agree. I mean, there's so much negative shit out there that I don't know. I mean, I hope this pod becomes super popular and you know that it's successful for you. But how do you come out in a positive way where instead of having to clickbait people into clicking on the link, it's legitimately like a safe space where people are going to feel energized afterwards?
And I think going that route of trying to promote positivity, it's the slower burn. It's going to take time, but I think over time people are going to respect it. I feel as though in this day and age of internet, if you do quality, honest content, although it may not go viral fast, over time people will find you because people are looking for it. So it's just, again, it's not the fast road. I don't think I'm going to make $1 million off of this podcast anytime soon.
I hope you do.
But I'm okay with that. You know, I think part of it is I just want to do something good for the world. I just want to put a good energy out there, good juju. And I think the world itself and the universe itself will reward me in the long run. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, I mean, I told you right before we started, we just put out our first episode finally on the internet, on YouTube. And my goal was if I can have 100 people click on that in the first 24 hours, I would consider that a huge success. Because it's a big ask, asking someone to spend an hour with me, especially when they're used to watching me for 5 or 10 minutes at a time doing car shit. It's a huge ask.
But it's also a whole, the greatest analogy is that you were a band playing reggae and all of a sudden you started playing heavy metal. Mm-hmm. You know, you've had this demographic, you've had this following that loved reggae, you know, and may not necessarily be into heavy metal, but you know what, as I said, I think the evolution of you as a human or you as a person should and can be reflected online, you know, and I think maybe you'd agree, maybe you won't. I think having a baby changed you.
Changed everything.
Changed the perspective, and I've heard that so many times that life doesn't matter, you know, your personal gain doesn't matter anymore once you have a kid.
I think when my daughter is older, I want to have created content where I'm proud that she's watching, that I'm okay with her watching, and that's not going to embarrass her either. Because that's the thing. Mm-hmm. You know, if I was doing stupid shit and I was hanging out in the car all the time or, you know, trying to do clickbaity stuff, and one day she's 14 years old, she goes to school, and her friends are like, oh, that's what your dad did. I'm like, I don't want that for her. You know, and then you feel the social responsibility to just be better. And I think having a kid really added that perspective to my life.
I think you also come from a different perspective, because there's people that will do what you're trying to do here in order to become rich and then eventually hopefully become wealthy. And, you know, everybody's buying into the YouTuber creator. It used to be an influencer. Now they're considered creators, which I completely buy into it. But I think that our generation has their primary business that they focused on, and this sort of being a side thing. And I'm the same way, you know. It'd be hard for me to continue grinding like I do at Butler if I had another revenue stream that was generating just the same, and I might be enjoying it more. And I mean, I love my job at Butler. I love what I do, and, you know, every day's an adventure. But on the same hand, if there was something that was generating more revenue, would I be more inclined to be swayed that way? I don't know so much, you know, but, you know, it might be different for you, you know.
I think, I mean, I just want to devote my life to do something in my off time, in my free time, to do something that I feel like matters, you know, and it's not easy to get that feeling. I think something that we touched on earlier is the idea of men and conviction and the lack of conviction that people have in their lives. People just kind of live their lives just to live, and they've lost purpose. They've lost kind of a means of why they do what they do. And I think I'm just on my own personal journey to find that.
I think you've always been like that, though, because when you enter cars, you didn't care what other people thought. you didn't care if they liked your car or they didn't, or you did it for yourself. And I'm the same way. I don't build these cars because I'm looking for acceptance from anybody. I love the car and I love it, and whether you like it or not, I couldn't care, you know. But as you've evolved, you've sort of applied the same mentality, and you sort of, you know what, march to the beat of your own drum, you know. But that's you as a person. But I do think that, because I mean, we played golf together. I mean, you got obsessed with golf almost the same time that I did, albeit you were a lot better than me and but
arguable.
But you dedicated, you took the time and the effort. And even with this, I can see from the setup and everything, you went out there, you did your research, you probably got stuck in a very, very dark, deep hole for a long time.
Deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then one day it just clicked. Yeah. And it's like, you know, then you just start executing what you've either studied or you've learned. But the funny part is the platform that you promoting on or that you're posting on, being at YouTube, is the one that taught you how to do it in the first place.
True.
You know, anything and everything you want to do, you can go. I mean, it's just, technology to me is just
mind-blowing.
And, you know, when you were having that discussion with Haas, and I agree with you. You know, first of all, I think that there comes a time when technology is so advanced that to a generation it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, but I also agree that, you know, I mean, there's a lot of times where you're like, man, when I was growing up and, you know, I'd get kicked in the face with a soccer ball. I mean, that was hurtful. You know, now going online and seeing somebody post something negative about you is hurtful. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a whole different ballgame.
And you try not to let it get to you, but it's not easy.
It's not. I mean, listen, we go through emotional roller coasters, as you know, and you'll see that as well. I mean, you saw that a little bit with the channel that you had before and the social media presence that you had. And, you know, I go through it as a brand on a daily basis. It's, you know, you're sort of waiting around for when that bomb's going to drop. And, you know, the internet can be harsh place. And I've seen people who think they have more clout than they do, do more damage than a business thought they could. You know, and again, it comes down to people see like a negative thing. It's exactly the same as you see a bar fight. What are you going to do? Walk away? No, you're going to stand there and see who's going to kick whose ass.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's a crazy society that we're living in. Anything can flip on a dime. You know, I mean, I've seen some people recover from it and come from it, but I've also seen businesses being shut down and taken out because of it.
And people think that if you get clicks and views, that it'll translate to business. And sometimes it's just not that way.
I'm so on the fence with this, and I've had this debate so many times, you know, and I used to back in the day when we first started doing social. I was always a firm believer that clicks do not equate to sales. Mm-hmm. And if you can prove that to me, then so be it. But I think my mind's changing, or it has changed over the past few years. I think implementing the right strategy online. Topic of conversation, probably the most spoken about person in the entire world is, you know, Andrew Tate. And he's a lot of things, and I don't agree with a lot of things that he said. But the way that guy took over the internet.
Crazy.
But he had a full-blown plan, and he was just executing it. And even if you listen to his interviews once he got cancelled, he knew that was the end game.
Yeah.
You know, that was sort of the destination that was going to happen. But on the same hand, if a person like that can take over, and people that wouldn't necessarily be affected by him, all of a sudden it's like, who is this guy? You know, and I've shared his part, you know, with a bunch of people in his interviews and stuff. And, you know, I'm like, look, I don't necessarily agree with everything, but some of the shit that guy says, I mean, if you think about it,
a lot of it hits home.
He's got an answer for everything. And I mean, you know, to be the guru on anything and everything is not easy.
I think he showed the world that you can say what you want, and even when they try to cancel you, you can survive it. Mm-hmm. Because he just wouldn't shut the fuck up. He just kept on talking and talking. And they're like, shut up. And he's like, no. And he kept on talking. He's like, no, you can't say that. He's like, no, I want to say it. And he just kept on talking. Whether you agree or not, secondary. The reality is they threw everything they could at him, and everyone's still listening to him. And he's not, he's in jail, but yet everyone knows who he is. Everyone shares what he has said. And I think it's interesting how that worked out because, again, they threw everything they could at him.
You know, the similarities, okay, between what happened to him, and I'm a firm believer that the media will twist anything. You think clickbait on social media is bad? I mean, you know about the news and the outlets, about them. You know, they're the kings. I mean, they've been doing it for far longer than anybody online. I'm at home one day and I have nothing to fucking do, you know, and I see this Harry and Meghan thing on Netflix. I don't know if you watched it.
No.
Okay.
I know of it.
Okay.
Not watching it.
So that's the same reaction I get 99% of the time when I ask anybody. And yeah, it's soapy. Yeah, it's about a couple. But when you look at the bigger picture, it's literally, what's the word? It's unfolding how the media controls the world. And when you think of the royal family, I mean, the royal family is funded by the public, the taxpayers. And in exchange, the media has pretty much turned to them and said, okay, you should be at our beck and call at any given time. And you have to salute Harry in some aspects and saying, I will not live this sort of life. You know, especially his mother got killed because of the media. I mean, but it's interesting. You should definitely watch it and put the soapy stuff aside. You'll see how the media, because I think everybody in the back of their minds when they're little, you know, it's like, oh, I'd love to be famous, you know. But this side reveals what it's like to be famous and the fact that you can't go anywhere, you can't move without criticism, you constantly in the spotlight. And to be quite honest, after watching that, I'm like, I don't want to be famous anymore.
I thought there was this time where I was, when kids used to come up to me and take pictures, and it just always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Not because they were asking me to take pictures with them, but because I always felt like I should do better than, you know? I didn't want to be a bad role model. And I had so many videos driving ridiculous speeds, just doing crazy, stupid shit, causing all kinds of havoc on the road. And at a certain point, I was like...
Because you were heavy into rallies. And let's be real. You're not doing the speed limits.
No, it is really dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's extremely... I mean, I think the last couple of years, several people have died doing it. And it's really... I mean, it's highly illegal, highly dangerous. And not just dangerous for yourself, but you're putting other people in danger. And when I was doing it, I thought it was the most fun thing ever because it's so exciting.
When was the last one? When was the last one you did? How many years ago? Probably
maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And something about it is just so addicting, and it's so much fun. And if you have a supercar and you have a fast car, like, do it. But it's really dangerous. And you're putting people, I mean, kids and families in vans, minivans, you're just like cutting them off at 150 miles an hour. It's really not that great.
So the question is, I mean, you know, me being the person that I am and the company that we've built and the reputation that we built, it's a very, very fine line between embracing the rally driver because it's good for business. You know, you guys burn through tires like no other. Constantly doing wheel repairs, cough, hoss, cough. You know, but on the same hand, the liability that comes with it. You know, guys would always come to us and, hey man, we'll put your sticker on. I don't want my sticker on your car.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been on a rally. I can only imagine what goes on. But besides that, Matt, I think that you were responsible, and whether you claim or not, you were responsible for a large portion of a lot of people that are friends today for being friends. And I remember that when you came out with the DFC, which is the Drive Fast Club, I was like, shit, here we go. Another club, another bunch of douchebags, you know. And, you know, being in the industry for as long as I have, you see clubs come and go and you see stupid shit happen. And for once, you and whoever I met through the crew, I came back, I'm like, these are just the nicest people. And there's, I don't know, man, you find a lot of egos are involved, and I like associating myself with people that don't consider egos in the equation when they get into a situation or they go after something. So to hear that you sort of got out the game, not out the game, but I think you grew up, and that's maybe what happened. You just got older, bro.
It was kind of a weird experience because at a certain time, I think the Drive Fast Club was doing really well. I love all those guys that were a part of it. I ran into a situation where people were asking me, hey, can I join? And I'm all of a sudden the arbitrator of who's allowed to hang out and not. And I thought that was a really odd position to be in. And I felt myself judging people. Like, oh, no, like, I don't think your car is cool enough. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, who am I to decide that? But if you start letting everyone in, then you have to be able to, like, are they going to add value to the group? Are they going to be a douche? Are they going to cause problems?
And then you accept them and they cause problems and it's your fault.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, this is not my role in life to tell grown-ass men they're cool or not. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I felt really weird because I'm telling people, like, dude, I don't think you can hang. And I'm like, who am I to make that decision? Like, who put me in charge? I'm not in charge of your coolness of your car.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys who get into the supercar world, they all came from really similar lives, which is that I think the common theme is that they weren't part of the quote unquote cool group growing up. They worked, they made money, they sacrificed a lot of their life. And then later in life, they make some money and like, okay, I want to do some cool shit. And now I'm telling those guys, it's not enough. Like, it felt weird to me. I didn't like it. Yeah. I didn't like that feeling that I had. And I didn't feel...
Well, it took on a life of its own, because I remember when you first started, and I think where you went wrong, okay, which I don't think you actually went wrong with the club, because, and I don't know what, the struggles that you had behind the scenes I'm learning of, but the day you branded it is the day you should have acknowledged ownership of it, because you were responsible for that. Mm-hmm. You could have kept it just super cool, no rules, but I remember, man, you built this thing out. So take ownership, bro. You owned that, you built it out, you were building sets of rules, you were, but on the same hand, I think that it's very big of you to be able to stand up and say, hey, this is not the direction that I want to go, or that I want this club to go in. And within a poof of a minute, the thing was disintegrated.
I think the summer of 2020, when when people are rioting and crime was really high in the city, and the streetcar takeover thing was getting huge, and people were drag racing all over the city, and at that point, I just didn't want to contribute to what was going on. You can see the car culture in Atlanta just heading in the wrong direction. And I feel like I was part of promoting it, and I felt like I was part of the problem. And I just didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And I just stepped back.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to contribute to it. I mean, people are doing stupid shit. People are getting hurt. And I'm probably just as responsible as anybody else for encouraging that. I never told people go out and do stupid shit, but I was doing it. And a lot of people were watching me. I mean, there are certain days where I'd have thousands of people on my stories like, oh, these guys are doing this. And at a certain point, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, you see society breaking down all around you. And I was like, I don't want to be a contribution to that. I just didn't.
Do you miss it?
Of course. I miss it sometimes. I've sold my Lamborghini maybe almost 2 years ago. And you're actually the ones that showed me the Range Rover SVR that I bought. Mm-hmm. You're the one that told me about that. We were playing golf one day.
Yeah.
And I sold the car. And I think for the first year and a half, never even looked back. Like, didn't even miss it. Now, I got into a buddy's AMG the other day, and I drove it just a few blocks, just like 15 minutes. And the turbochargers were going, and I was like, oh, I kind of miss it now.
I'll tell you what happened with mine. I'm the kind of person, and I think that this is important in life. And you can be ultra conservative, okay? You can work your ass off and be ultra conservative, achieve your goals and set new ones and keep growing that way. And your toys grow with your income, for instance. I like to overextend myself. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me driven. I keep grinding. And as COVID started, reached out to a dealership, and I knew that shit was about to hit the fan, and made a ridiculous offer on my AMG, the GTC. And they laughed at me or whatever, but 2 days later, the car was on the way for my offer. I got into it. I drove it for about a year. And, you know, with those cars, you get up into the 10, 15,000 miles. You're starting to...
Start to lose value.
Yeah. And it was the height of the stupidity, which is what I call the car market in the heart of COVID. It was just absolute stupidity.
1 year of just ridiculous pricing on cars.
Just stupid.
Crazy.
You know, just laughable.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I mean, I got, I think, 40 grand more than what I paid for it. And I was like, fuck it, fine, you know. So I sold the GTC, which was my daily driver. Put the golf clubs in there. I put everything in there, you know, and I loved that car. Loved it. Traded it in, and at the time, I got the Rover. I remember selling the GTC and getting the Rover, okay, and driving it around and thinking to myself, I'm like, I miss that shit, you know, like I miss getting in and and I don't like doing risky shit, you know, especially on the road. One of my biggest fears is being arrested, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be arrested. That's one of two. And I don't want to see the masks drop on an airplane. Those are two things I just don't ever want to fucking experience. Okay. But I was driving the Rover around, you know, and it was great. The golf clubs fit in it. It's comfortable. You know, you're not trying to get anywhere fast, you know. And I found myself sometimes, you know, and I mean, listen, I drive a lot of cool cars for work and take them to shows and everything like that. And I missed it. I missed cranking it up and, you know, waking the neighbors up and
the drama.
Yeah.
There's just so much drama around having a cool car.
Yeah. And so I eventually, like, I don't know, there was a part of me that was gone, you know, and then enough time went, and I was like, fuck it. I've always wanted an R8, and I went out and bought one, you know.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
It's fucking beautiful. The only problem is I don't fucking fit in it. I still own the car, you know, but, you know, 45 minutes to an hour of driving it is max, you know. I mean, anyway, that's a whole different conversation, but I missed it.
I think I'll definitely get back into, quote unquote, a cool car. I think it'll probably happen when my daughter is just a little bit older, so that I can help give her some clout. I think that's really the goal. I want her to take her to like her school dance or something and show up in a Lamborghini and all her friends like, oh yeah, she's fucking awesome. Yeah. You know, something like that. I think I would find more.
Well, I mean, there's a sense of being the cool dad, you know,
exactly,
as well.
Exactly. But now, like, I can't take her in the car anyway. She's too small. What am I going to do? Throw in the shotgun of a Lamborghini and drive around? Like, it's just stupid. It's ridiculous.
I love the way that your mindset has shifted, you know, and again, like anything that you talk about, it goes back to your daughter.
Everything.
I want to do this for my daughter. I want to do that for my daughter, and please God, you guys have more kids, you know. But on the same hand, you know, you can't just stop playing golf, and you can't just stop, you know, your world.
No, she's gonna be a golfer. She's gonna be at the golf course swinging a golf club when she's a year old. All right. So there was a time where we did a commercial with my car for Michelin.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. I found the link. Let me pull it up real quick. And we'll show
This is the infamous band commercial.
This thing was banned.
Yeah.
So I want to show it.
It wasn't necessarily banned, but give me that plug, Matt.
Love your shoes.
Thanks, they're wrapped in Michelin.
I thought that commercial was awesome.
So a few things. First of all, do you know how fucking awkward it is when I started having to cast girls? And so I had to post on my Facebook, I'm like looking for somebody. You don't care about your face, don't care about your body, but you got to have a dope set of legs, you know, a dope pair of legs. And of course the internet went mad.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's the part of my job that I love. I love brainstorming and coming up with ideas and then seeing them come to fruition. And that was produced by my very good friend Lance and his company Pure Melon. That when I went to them with the ideas that we had, and that was one of 3 that we shot together. You know, we brainstormed and we came up with a concept, and then, you know, that's a lot of the times marketing departments get stuck in that. And they like, you know, come up with this concept, high-five each other, and that's fucking brilliant, you know, let's go out and do it, you know, spend all this money doing it. And what happened is that it was at the heart of the Me Too movement.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe I just got canceled.
Yeah. So
that's my first time getting canceled.
Yeah, very, very early stages. I mean, we spent a lot of money. And you saw that wasn't, you know, I mean, no disrespect to Nick, my video guy, who produces some of the most amazing content ever and has taken our brand to definitely different heights. But this was done professionally, you know, and you could tell.
Yeah, that was a very interesting night. I learned a lot. The way they work is something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it, I can't believe this. You're like, oh, we're gonna make it live in like a couple of months, and then all of a sudden you're like, dude, they said no. I was like, what?
So, you know, primarily with Michelin, and Michelin's an amazing partner. And to me, the Louis Vuitton, the Rolex, whatever you want to call of tires, you know, I refer to everything as the Rolls Royce of tires. You have to go through a lot before you can get them to accept things. They have very, very strict guidelines. And in order for you to put your name next to theirs and theirs next to yours, you know, I mean, rightfully so, they have to go through you have to go through an approval process. And this one, this was one of 3. The other one featured Ed Bolian, which is super easy because he's amazing on camera. And then the second one, which we actually canceled completely because it just didn't represent the brand as we wanted to. But we had to storyboard everything. Every word, every camera angle, and deliver it to Michelin before they would actually give us permission to go out and do this. And not even from a sense that they were paying for it, but more a sense that we were representing their brand correctly. So it was fun to do. We finally got the final edit, and even the voiceover. You know, we had to go out there and hire somebody whose voice we felt best represented Butler. And you can't believe, like, the process that we went through just to find the right voice. And the legs, I mean, I can't remember what her name is, but she was super cool to work with. And, you know, she would even message us and say, hey man, what's with my commercial? Even though it's just my feet, you know, even to the shoes, everything was just worked out perfect for that. And I mean, listen, I came up with that concept with Lance, and we both looked at each other, which sometimes we do with each other. Is we high five each other and we're like, fuck, we're the funniest guys on earth, you know, and nobody else thinks we're funny. But I think that concept was awesome. We delivered it. Michelin came back and said, I don't know about
Timing
that
is weird.
Timing's very weird. And yeah, it never got released. And many years later, the person who disapproved it left the organization, and I decided to take it upon myself. I'm like, we spent way too much time and effort on this for it not to be out there. So
I mean, you call me and you're like, just come to this location and we're gonna film. And I'm on my way there. I'm like, I'm going to the hood.
Yeah, like
this was not a good side of town.
If I'm not mistaken, they filmed Spider-Man.
Yeah, in that warehouse behind it.
Yeah, and then I remember, I mean, these guys had rented bathrooms and, you know, special director chairs, and, you know, it was fucking cool. It was really, really cool, and we haven't done anything like that since then. You know, but the fact that it got cancelled, I mean, that's a bummer. But again, you know, at least we got a copy of it.
No, I think that's a great commercial. I was very sad to see it canceled.
You know, it's funny with Nick coming on this year. Nick, again, is our videographer at Butler, and he's responsible for shooting and editing. It's amazing how much time we spend going through archives. Because when you're onboarding a new employee, especially with Butler, and the brand is everything to us, getting a new person to understand how to best represent us, and allowing them to have creative freedom. You got to set the boundaries, right? But we started going through a lot of the archive videos that we had produced before, and it was super cool to see where we had come from, and you know how he's adapted to the style of Butler. And there's a lot of stuff, and you can ask him. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he brings to me, and I'm like, no. And then there's very few stuff that he brings, and I'm like, great job, well done. You know, let's move on. But it's not easy.
I brought you on because obviously someone I consider a really good friend of mine, someone I respect. I value your opinion. And we have a lot of common interests, cars, golf, specifically these days. Mm-hmm. And you've built a huge brand in Butler Tire. Basically every celebrity
I've helped build
and athlete and rapper and anyone of anybody in Atlanta goes to you guys. And you're somewhat of a local celebrity. Everyone in cars knows who you are. If you're in Atlanta and you're in the car scene, you know Dani, right?
My claim to fame.
But before you came into Butler, you were born and raised in South Africa.
Yeah. I was born in South Africa, and then my parents decided to move to Israel when I was 6 weeks old. Definitely don't remember that part of my life. But I spent a lot of my childhood in Israel, which was really, really cool. Super, super amazing country to live in, especially as a kid. And then in and amongst my parents, my parents got divorced. My dad moved back to South Africa. My mom decided to take us back to South Africa, then back to Israel. And eventually I was like, listen, I'm going to go live with dad. So at the age of 13, I moved back to South Africa. Lived there with my dad for 6 or 7 years. And in between, my mom had moved here, and she was working at Butler at that stage. My mom runs a commercial division over at Butler. She, as we said, recently retired. I would come over here and visit all the time. I think the first time I came over was just before the Olympics. Was the Olympics in 96?
96, 98, something like that.
Yeah. And I came here and fell in love with Atlanta and the country itself, you know. And it's funny because when you live here, you don't realize, but I'm watching movies over there that are based on life here and trends here. Well, I land here and I'm like, fuck, 7-Eleven actually...
It's a thing.
It's a thing, man. I'm like, who would have known, you know? And a Slurpee is a thing, you know? And so it was like coming here and I'm living in a movie, you know? And Atlanta was a very, 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 very different place in the early 90s or the mid-90s. And it was just such a cool vibe that every time I went back to South Africa, I knew that eventually I would land up here. And so just before I turned 21, you're still considered a dependent on your parents. And so I was eligible for a green card, and I knew, you know, South Africa, amazing country, beautiful. Highly suggest anybody to go and see it. But I knew I had no future there. And that's my personal, I personally had no future there.
Well, what about growing up in South Africa made you feel that way?
You know, my father over there, who recently passed away last year, worked his ass off. He worked every single day. I watched him grind. We lived in a nice house. We had a maid, which is not necessarily because you're rich. It's just a thing in South Africa. Or back then it was. And keep in mind, I haven't been back since 2004. So I don't know how things are there now. But, you know, coming from a middle class family, and this is my opinion, my grandparents were definitely wealthy. Some of the parts of the family were definitely wealthier, but my father had a different work ethic. You know, he used to work hard from hand to mouth, and I just knew, you know, in that environment that I wasn't going to be able to shine. And also, when you're living abroad, and you have the opportunity at that stage, I moved here in 97. You have the opportunity at that stage to come and live in what you consider, and I still consider, the greatest country in the world. You don't sleep on that. You make the move and you do it. And I think that the opportunities to become successful here, regardless of your background, were far greater than South Africa. I was in South Africa during apartheid, during Mandela's release, during reverse racism, affirmative action, the Rainbow Nation, the whole Rugby World Cup. I mean, the country literally transformed overnight, and was the most amazing thing I ever got to experience. But somebody like me, I never ever finished high school. All I knew how to do is hustle and make money. Hustle hard and make money. Wasn't the smartest person in the entire world. In fact, like, I think out of my 7 classes I had to go to in a day, I was kicked out of 6 of them. I used to spend my time in the quad, and eventually when I was 16 years old, I turned to my parents. I said, look, you're wasting your money. You know, let me go out there and let me get a head start on everybody and start working and grinding. And that's what I did. I took one day off and started grinding the very next day and haven't stopped. But again, I think the opportunity, you know, the sky's the limit in the United States. Is that still true today? I don't think so. But back then in the late 90s, I mean, I remember I used to get a pencil and it said made in the USA. And I knew that was the greatest fucking pencil ever made, you know? And so what better way to pursue? I knew how to work hard. And when I first got here, within the first week or so, it's funny because I used to smoke weed, a lot of weed. And I went to my one uncle and I'm like, hey man, hook me up. You know, I just got to this country. And he was like, cut your hair, change the way you dress, get a job, and I'll hook you up. And I was like, don't have to tell me twice. I used to have long hair, you know. Cut my hair, got a job. I started earning money, man. And I remember that first paycheck and I'm like, this shit is way too fucking easy, you know. And then I just started working harder and harder. And I was living at home. I was 20 years old. You know, my expenses, I mean, my car payment was $190 a month, you know, and I was making $2,000 a week. And I wasn't working any harder than I would in South Africa. I was like, fucking holy shit, you know, these people are just giving money away.
Free money.
You know, and that was the whole key for me is you have to be willing to look at the opportunity. You know, a lot of people would be bummed you left your friends behind, you left what you know as normality in life, you left it behind and you're coming into the unknown. But I also had an amazing support system. I mean, my mom's whole family was here, and we super close. So you had a full support system. But on the same hand, my 2 uncles were involved in Butler. This was in the peak of who they are today. And these guys just were grinding, and they were like inspirational. So yeah, I mean, I didn't think that the opportunity for me personally was in South Africa. And I definitely felt that I gravitated more towards America and the way that things were set up here and the opportunities that would be here were not the same for me in South Africa.
What was your first job? You said you quit school at 16 and you got a job. What was that first job?
I mean, listen, anybody leaves school, their first job is if their parents have a business, you start working in their business. I found out really quick that me and my dad do not work well together. He ran like a general contractor, like a handyman sort of vibe, and he was super successful at it, but he was a dickhead, man, and he was an asshole to work for, you know? Now when I think back to it, I'm like, this guy taught me life lessons, and I remember having this conversation with him. I was just involved in just bad shit in South Africa. And when I went back there to visit him, he got really sick. I went back there to visit, and so some of my older demons sort of came out. And keep in mind, I'm in the States, man. It's a whole different vibe. People are chilled. I'm not, kill or be killed sort of vibe. And I swore that I would never go back to the country for personal reasons. And I just looked at him and I just said to him, I said, thank you for teaching me the life lessons that you did. But one thing I promised myself is that I will never land up like you. Not in a negative way. I just wasn't willing to accept that as my life. And that led me to the United States again. But that lasted, I don't know, maybe a month, and he's my dad. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't feel like working today. And I would, be partying the night before, and he'd be knocking at my door, I mean, I'm living in the same house as he was knocking. Oh, come, it's time to go to work. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going.
Get your ass out of bed.
Yeah. And then I'd be like, no, I'm not going. He's like, okay, well, rent's due at 2 p.m. I'm like, the fuck you mean rent, But after that, I was sort of obsessed with car stereo, and I got into that immediately. Reluctantly, I didn't start at the bottom. South Africa was going through a very, very weird stage where there was still apartheid, which I completely disagreed with. I never understood it as a kid growing up into it, and thankfully I got to experience everything of it, both the positives and the negatives. And I was put into a situation where I was sort of this assistant manager of this workshop. I had no fucking idea, even thinking back today, what the fuck was I even doing there? I couldn't tell you what I did, but I was getting a paycheck, and I was living the life that I felt was for me at the time, Do I regret not finishing school? Absolutely not. I think if school is your path and education is your way, then that's one way. But learning lessons on the street is my way of getting to where I am today.
So you came here when you were how old?
I was just about to turn 21.
And at 21, that's a big move. What was happening around that time in your life that you're like, I need to get the fuck out of here? Or were they like, Dani, you're getting into trouble, you need to get out of here?
No, it was planned. It was planned. I mean, you know what? There's no secret. Back then, ecstasy was a thing, speed was a thing. I never ever got into anything more hectic than that. I mean, acid at best, But I think back now and I look at a lot of the people and I've lost touch with a lot of them, but I either would have been dead or in jail, in my opinion, had I stayed there. This country just opens up so many more opportunities, and I think that a lot of people get bogged down in crying out like, why me? Especially the younger generation.
The woe is me syndrome.
The entitledness is just crazy to me. It's, I'm a firm believer in respect is never, respect is it's never promised, respect is fucking earned, and if you respect me, I respect you. But if you come in expecting respect, I treat you a whole different way, man. I don't have fucking time for that. I worked hard to get to where I am, and I think that the opportunities are there for any single person, especially in this country. I mean, you go live in a different country, you'll see a whole different story. Yeah.
People take for granted how awesome it is to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be in its current best state today, in a lot of people's opinions, but I think social media fucks that up a lot. There's no more social interaction, there's no more face-to-face like we're doing, and the world needs more of it. You need emotion. You need to look in someone's eyes while they're talking to you. You need to feel someone's energy in order to understand where they're coming from, versus just reading a bunch of words. And it's too easy to go and post shit up. I mean, I've had a scenario at work where people talk shit online. Butler, has been around for a long time. It's 40 plus years. It's my family's brand. It was started by a family beforehand, but My family took it and just took it to the next level. There's a reputation there that I feel personally responsible to uphold and to continue. And so when people talk shit about it, I take it personally. And in a very, very professional and very respectful way, I go straight to the source. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to have an online war with you. That's definitely not who we are as a brand. If we fucked up, we'll own to it. And we're human, and we do fuck up. If we didn't, I don't think we'd exist. There's a human factor to it all, but you get a keyboard hero who fucking hammers you online, and then you see him face to face, and you're like, "Hey, bro, I'm right here." Like, what's up?
And they get quiet really fast.
Really, really fast, and I'm that dude, and if you speak to a lot of my friends, I'm the dude who makes shit awkward. Yeah.
Which I love about you.
Yeah, I'm the fucking grenade launcher. I fucking take the grenade, I throw it in there, and I watch it explode, and I'm like, but in a fun way. I don't mean to do any harm to anybody.
And I don't think you ever do it in an aggressive fashion.
Yeah. I just, it's exactly like when we're on the golf course, we talk shit. I mean, I shank the ball, you fucking laugh, I putt it, it's three inches from the hole, and you're like, bro, that's nowhere near, like we just laugh. I mean, that's...
You could have done better.
Yeah. And you strive to do better. But on the same hand, I think that today's times and social media is fucking destroyed human interaction.
So that's a weird psychology with people where they buy brand new cars and then they spend ridiculous amount of money to buy new wheels when they've already paid to upgrade the wheels on their car. Why do people care so much about the wheels on their car?
I think it dates back so far, and this is so much bigger than just Butler. Why do people wear different hats? Why do people wear different belts? Why is a Louis Vuitton belt $3,000 and a Levi's belt's $50? I think that people are always striving to personalize, accessorize, whether it be themselves, their vehicles, their watches, and I think that it sets them apart. I mean, it's funny that, and I'll get back to the topic, but the funniest part of life to me, is going to Publix or Kroger, supermarket or whatever, and watching people drive their carts, because you can associate that to exactly the same way that they drive their cars. And the next time you're out there, just try and take a look. You know the people who won't let you in line. You know the people who will try and bump you out of the way. You know the speeders. You know the guys who just park in the left-hand lane. There's all those people, okay? But I think that personalizing your vehicle makes you feel a certain way. I've always said this, and this goes back to Ryan Cameron came up with this, who was a very, very good friend of my uncle Mel, and said, if you don't get out your car and look back at it, you're driving the wrong car. There's a sense of pride, and a sense of accomplishment. Wheels are not cheap. It's a depreciating asset. It's
probably the worst investment you can ever make.
The worst investment ever made. Yet people do it on a day-to-day basis. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, during the pandemic, we just saw absolute fucking madness. It was madness. And especially because we sort of cater towards a luxury and high-performance segment, people just had ridiculous amounts of money. We had a customer come in, drop $200,000 cash on a brand new Urus he had just bought for, how much is a Urus? 350. So you think it's 550 before he's even driven the car. And that was happening on a day-to-day basis. And, the car came out. Is it my idea of beautiful? No. But do I think it's got its place? Yeah, it's his. He dictated where the pinstripe would be. He dictated where the color would be. And again, it's like, even going to go buy your clubs. You can walk up into whatever store you want to and pick up a set of golf clubs and it'll work. You'll hit the ball and you'll have forward progress, but going to go have a club fitting is the next level. And I think that's the way that it is. But if you think about it in like a grand scheme of things, these manufacturers like Porsche, Mercedes, BMW spend millions on R&D, and they come up with a happy medium as to what's the best application for any given situation. And then they develop a product around that. Well, we throw that on there. We're like, nah,
no good.
That's bullshit.
Millions of dollars of research development. Billions means nothing. Yeah. I know better.
So the other thing is that there's two ways to look at it. There's aesthetics and then there's performance. The guys that are building their Jeeps, and putting 16, 17-inch wheels and these big monster tires on, those are the guys that are going to go and get the absolute max performance out of this vehicle. But we cater to a customer that's putting 22-inch wheels on a Jeep and 35s and will never see dirt in its entire life. But on the same hand, it's to me, like, the Jeep market is the epitome of accessorizing, because it is fucking endless. Yeah, it is absolutely endless. I think we built a show Jeep one. I think at $100,000, I had to call it quits. So I think that's it will forever be, if the manufacturers, and if you've noticed, Matt, a lot of the manufacturers now are coming out with wheels that are very, very, very cool. Yeah. Especially Porsche, even Mercedes. I think
getting a lot more trendy in their designs.
A lot more trendy. They're stealing a lot of the engineers and from these aftermarket companies in order to appeal to the audience. If you look at Mercedes now, their SL has got that wheel with the ring around it. I mean, I remember Vossen being one of the first brands out there to do that. Now manufacturers are doing it. But I think that the manufacturers actually started it, because back in the day you could only buy a car and it was black. That was it. And then they were like, maybe if we sell a silver one, that's going to be the difference. And then, you started adding. I mean, I don't know, 20 years ago, you couldn't get a lava orange Porsche, and even the paint to sample stuff, it's like having a unique color is not enough anymore. Now let's make a paint to sample. Like, you can make any combination, take the color wheel and spin it, and we can make it, But that's the bespoke world.
I mean, that's number one reason I bought my car is because you said there is this Nardo Gray Range Rover SVR out there. Yeah. It's one of one, and no one has this color. I was like, oh, that's the one I want.
Do you know, I was in the process, and it's so funny because I love the R8. I think it's a beautiful car. It's one of the best cars I've owned. The GTC was still my favorite, but it's time. It's time for it to go. I always wanted an R8, and I did it. It was a goal of mine in my life, and I reached it, and I did it, and got it out my system. And so I found this paint to sample GT3 Touring, and that was my next milestone. And again, I spoke about this a little bit, where I stretch myself slightly, and then I work harder to attain that, and then I get comfortable, and then I do it again. Well, this car's way out of my league. Okay. And I think to myself, the R8 is low-ish or mid 200s. Okay. The GT3 Touring is a 300 plus car.
It's a next level up.
It's adjusted market level. And I'm thinking to myself, the R8 is such an amazing car. Okay. Where's the justification between a $200,000 naturally aspirated V8 and a flat six, and I'm like, where's the justification? And it's like intriguing to me. So I found this one, was paint to sample, black and red interior, had checked every single box. Okay. And this person, the previous owner, bought the car, drove it for 600 miles, hated it, and that's the world we live in, I go to see it, and I've literally signed all the paperwork. Okay, I know I'm overextending myself, but not too much where it's stupidity. I know that it's attainable. Might not be now, but it's definitely attainable for me. Sign all the paperwork and everything, and then my cousin Craig, who's the worst influence ever, and I actually said to him while I was signing, I'm like, you literally have cost me so much money in my life. because we've been best friends since we were born. You know, we're same age, and we started looking around the car and realized that the car has steel brakes. And I'm like,
deal breaker.
I look at Craig and I'm like, it's the right color, right interior, manual, bucket seats. Who the fuck puts fucking steel brakes on a car like this?
Yeah.
You know?
Weird place to cheap out.
Yeah, it's like, and the retail of it, I mean, you're talking about a 300 plus car.
Yeah.
You know, to put carbon ceramics on it, I mean, that's a fucking no. I mean, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer, you know, and again, no disrespect to anyone. These are just my personal opinions. And I look at Craig and I pull him aside and I'm like, the color was sort of like a darkish, murkish gray, almost like Leonardo, but just a little bit more purple in it. And I said to him, I'm like, look, I'm going to put brushed clear wheels on this thing and I'm not fucking around with brake dust. It's a thing of the past. You know, the carbon ceramics, one of the biggest advantages is no brake dust. You know, the wheels stay clean.
Yeah. It's funny that it's a performance thing, but yet we care about it for brake dust.
Yeah. So he was like, listen, it's a real thing. And then I started looking at resale and I started looking at the market and everything and realizing that the carbon ceramics, that's why these vehicles are fetching as much as they are. And any one of them, there's plenty of them there with steel brakes. I don't even know why it's a fucking option, but so we walk away from there, paperwork signed and everything. All I got to do is just call the bank and transfer the money. And I look at him and I'm like, I'm out. And he's like,
deal breaker.
He's like, you serious? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, let's go online. And we went online, did a bunch of research and saw, and I think that you can agree, you know, at that level, and especially because I'm stretching myself or extending myself a little bit, I don't want to lose a lot of money. I know there's, you know, collateral damage that comes with buying a vehicle. It's a depreciating asset after all.
But minimize the loss.
Minimize the loss. And we start looking at the market and we start seeing the discrepancy between a 260 car and a 300 or 320 car. And the commonality is the options that are coming. Yes, it's a paint to sample. Yes, it had an amazing interior and unique and different. But on the same hand, I couldn't get past that, man. And you know, especially being in the wheel game, I'm like, I'm not cleaning these wheels. I fucking hate washing cars. It's my least favorite thing in the entire world.
I love washing my own car.
Yeah.
I find it therapeutic in like this weird way where I can just zone out. I know exactly what I want to do. I don't think about it, but yet again, you have to make these micro decisions along the way. And I love that.
There's a few reasons. Okay. The first one is I don't want to know where all the nooks, the nicks, the scratches, I don't want to know that shit because I'm OCD like that and I'll sell a car for a big enough scratch. The other thing is it always sounds like a great idea in the beginning. And then as I start getting to the wheels and I start busting my knuckles in, I'm like, fuck this. I promise you now, I've got a detailer, the best detailer in Atlanta, and he comes every single Friday and he washes all of our cars. And I appreciate that guy and his grind so much because I can't get through one car without being pissed off. Now, the satisfaction of seeing it at the end is amazing because a car that you cleaned versus somebody else cleaned always looks cleaner. Could be the same
exact thing. Just feels different.
It just feels different. And I appreciate what he does because he does this meticulously, day after day, car after car, and he's pumping out 5, 6, 7 cars. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you do this, but some people get satisfaction out of it, and I don't hate, but I love driving my car when it's clean. I just could never do it once a week. That's just.
I think it's interesting that wheels is really a male thing. Females don't really get into as much. And sometimes they don't understand.
They do.
You think just the men much or?
It's definitely a more male predominant segment. But if you meet a female who accessorizes her car, whether she does wheels and tires or whether she puts an exhaust on it or tints her windows or whatever, they love that shit, man. They love it, and there's no. I think in the car community, there's no discrimination between anybody. If anything, you look at a girl who's got a hooked up car and it's fucking badass.
And she's a lot hotter all of a sudden.
Yeah, bro. You know, you can take a 5 to an 8 real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I love a girl who
drives on some bags.
No, not even like you know.
That's my thing. Stick shift and on bags. And, like, oh.
And I mean, you know the sensation and the vibe and the feeling that you get when your car's hot, bro, and you arrive somewhere and you're like, fuck, that's my fucking ride, you know. And I love that sensation for people, whether it's female, male, you know, whatever the fuck you want. But you know, there's a lot of industries that are going to get sucked up and eaten up by the internet that have been already, and hopefully the wheel and tire game is not going to be a part of that. You're always going to have someone who's going to have to install it, unless you want to do it yourself. But I love the industry. That's why I said, you know, going to work for me is fun, and seeing all the trends and everything is even more fun, you know.
So a lot of celebrities go to Butler. And you can always tell what a person is really like by how they treat employees, workers, etc. Who's someone that you would consider like a real one? Someone that's famous, that's a solid guy.
I can't mention any names due to privacy. It's legitimate. That's one of my morals that I won't stray from.
We're talking about good people.
They're all good people. It just depends on what day you catch him. I think everybody's a good person until you catch them on the wrong day. We've had some experiences, bad ones, where our technicians refuse to work on their vehicles, and there's nothing we can do about it. And that just shows you the power of the business. You know, you got a restaurant and the kitchen's on strike.
I'm not cooking for this guy.
I ain't fucking cooking for him. He was completely disrespectful to our sales person. In a public manner. He's a huge public figure. Disrespected him in front.
Rapper, athlete, actor. I'm like fishing here.
I'm not gonna break that, but he was a fucking asshole on the day. And he disrespected this person in front of their family, which I think is below the belt. You don't disrespect a person anyway. Name calling, I mean, crazy, bro. You're a huge public figure. I'm talking, you've got millions and millions of followers, subscribers. You've got young kids who look up to you. I feel like when you're a celebrity, you sign up for that life. You under the spotlight constantly. You can fuck up. You can step out of line. But thankfully, he apologized, you know, afterwards. He tried to get something done, and my salesperson, and we backed him 100%. We backed our team.
That's awesome.
No money in the world is going to allow any one of us to stand by and let anybody disrespect our team. We worked way too fucking hard in order to be disrespected.
Which is not easy to do, because someone super famous comes in and you're like, well, this can increase our visibility, good for marketing, you know.
They try to get something else done. Our salesperson was like, you've been fired as a customer. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean? I'm so-and-so, and I don't give a fuck who you are. You can't disrespect anybody. And they apologized. Wrote a letter to my techs. We had all the techs, and we brought all of them together and asked them, is this good enough? You know, do you guys feel okay? Do you want a personal apology? What? And he did address them personally in the letter, but face to face. And this person lives in Miami. But he apologized, and my guys were like, that's good with us, you know. And the next time we saw him, we don't see him often because he ships his cars up. But the next time he came in town, he took the time to personally go and shake everyone's hand and apologize. And that to me shows even more character, you know. I'm always a firm believer, if you fuck up, own it. You know, there's no shame in apologizing, and we're human. We do that all the time, you know, and it's how you react to a situation. But I mean, one of the coolest is Shaq. Shaq comes to our stores and answers the phone.
That's funny.
It's fucking awesome. You know, we use a lot of the phone calls for training purposes. And to hear Shaq pick up the phone and say, hey, this is, thanks for calling Butler Tire. This is Shaq. How can I help you? And they're like, who? And he's like, Shaq. Like how difficult is that, He's an amazing human being. He really is. And but listen, all of them are cool. Everyone has good days. Everyone has bad days. I don't have one bad thing to say about anybody. Our company policy is not to share private information. Our employees know not to ask for signatures, autographs, no pictures. We just want people to feel safe and at home.
And it's a weird thing because celebrities will get extremely expensive cars, do all this customization on it, but in a weird way, they like their privacy. Mm-hmm. And it's such a weird dynamic between having a super flashy car, but yet I don't want anyone to know that's me in it.
It's like an oxymoron, It's to us, it's very cool, and every person has their own personality. We recently connected with another celebrity. She's a huge celebrity, and again, as I said, everybody has good days, everybody has bad days, and from what I heard, this person was consistently having a bad day, and I got involved. And you can ask anybody at the company. I'm like, I go to bat for my customers before I do, my partners, and we've butted heads on that a few times. But I took the reins, and you just treat them like a human. Treat them like they deserve to be treated, and you'll receive you'll receive the same in return. And I think she's one of the nicest, coolest people ever. Wished me Merry Christmas. The non-Jew in the whole equation, and I said thank you and Happy Hanukkah. And so we both laughed, and but that to me is the key. Is understanding who people are and being able to sort of interact with them in a language that they understand and they feel comfortable in. And that's, you're asking people to spend tens of thousands of dollars with you. There's got to be a level of trust there, and for this particular celebrity, she had got burnt in the past, and people were joyriding in a car. And I said to her, listen, we all have our own very, very cool cars. We don't need to drive yours around, I promise. So
You're at Butler Tire, you guys are one of the first companies, I think, locally to really embrace social media and social media marketing. You use that to grow your brand. You do a good job of engaging with customers, potential customers, etc. And you made that shift from more traditional marketing, because you guys used to do a lot of traditional marketing as well.
Yeah, when I first got there.
How do you think that move has really affected your business? And do you see that as a good thing?
Jesus, a long answer. I hope you got time. But when I first got there, the primary focus was terrestrial radio, traditional radio. There was a lot of even yellow pages, and even as far as the gay yellow pages, which was awesome. You got to reach a completely different audience, and I think that traditional media still has its place in the world. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. I think that today's culture disposes of anything they don't need very, very quickly, or that they don't see value in very, very quickly. Making the transition to the digital side, we realized very, very quickly that if we don't appeal to a younger demographic, our brand's going to die. And I think that that's what's going to happen in the world. As a brand, and a very, very old brand, you have to be able to adapt. And that's one thing that Butler has been able to do, and is one of the main reasons we've been able to sustain for so long, is we've adapted with the times. Butler used to manufacture their own tires. And when it got to a point where the bigger manufacturers were able to produce tires for cheaper than we could, it was time to evolve and move on. And so we got into tractor trailer tires, and then the same thing happened with that. And then it's like, okay, let's get into the wheel and tire game. And that's where we sort of found our niche, and we just stuck with it. But the reason I'm saying all of this is that the younger demographic, and I put huge value into I feel that every kid, every boy, and a lot of girls, maybe not as many as men, have the automotive DNA in them, and it's up to us as the older generation to activate that DNA and to show them the cool side of the cars. And please, you experience that with your daughter, and she understands the difference. And I remember growing up, and when you asked me the question about Ferrari and Lambo, I mean, it's instantaneously Ferrari, because that was the car that set me over the edge. And some people had posters of Countachs and whatever. And for me, I grew up with Magnum PI, who drove a Testarossa and was one of the coolest guys in the world, But I think that putting focus onto a younger generation in order to sustain your business and ensure longevity is so important. And we all know that, Facebook started off as a younger generation and then eventually evolved into a much older demographic. But you have to be present within these platforms in order to stay relevant. And my key with the branding side and being responsible for branding within the company was to make sure that I built the relationships with the younger demographic, so that when they became old enough to drive, we've always positioned ourselves as an aspirational brand. When they became old enough to drive, that they would aspire to be a Butler customer. And even though we work on all these celebrities and athletes and expensive cars, at the core of it, we're a tire store. So the same person that's changing Shaq's wheels and tires is the same person who's looking after Mrs. Smith's Honda Odyssey and making sure that her kids are getting to school safely. So that's very, very important to me. And I remember such a cool story. I was on Instagram in the early days with Butler, and this kid, which I didn't know was a kid, but came on and started DMing, and he was like, hey, love your brand, and I drive past your Alpharetta store all the time, and I always see cool cars parked outside, and I'm like, that's awesome, man, cool, but you never ever realize who you're talking to. I don't click on their profiles, and and thankfully most of people today are private, and you can't really tell. And so I just talk to them like I talk to anybody. That's the other thing with social media, is that we wanted to make sure that people knew that there were humans behind this, and that it's family owned and operated, and that was the impression and the presentation that we would always give with the brand. Is that even though we deal with these high-end cars, we're not snobs, we're not stuck up, and you can approach us at any given time. Any one of our partners, any one of our employees are passionate and love what they do. But anyway, this kid gets on, and he's like, hey, are there any car shows that I can go to, or that you guys are present? And I'm like, yeah, we do this amazing car show, called Caffeine and Octane, and now we've branched off into caffeine and exotics. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, when is this? And this was back, we started Caffeine and Exotics with Bruce from Caffeine and Octane, and what we wanted to do is bring like-minded people together in a safe environment. So all the guys that were into Lambos, bring them into the same area and let them sort of, meet each other and build these relationships. And so I tell him about it. He's like, I said to him, you should come by on this Sunday and come hang out. And he's like, okay, cool, let me go ask my mom, And I was like, the fuck, So I said to him, I'm like, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 6 years old. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, whatever. So then the next thing, I became this guy's buddy,
and role model.
Anyway, I got a lot of shit going on all the fucking time, and this kid keeps DMing me, and I'm like, keep responding, whatever. He's like, cool, my mom said she'll bring me. In fact, my dad said he's going to bring me. Is it okay if I bring a friend? And I'm like, bro, it's a public show. It's like, you want to bring your whole kindergarten class? Bring them, But anyway, they arrive at the show, and I see these little kids, okay, and now their eyes, Matt, are like this fucking big, and they seeing these cars, and I start getting goosebumps inside, and I'm like, fuck, that's the activation of the DNA. That's what's going to keep this industry going. That's what's going to keep the enthusiast's mind going. And the kid comes up to me and he's like, hey, I can't remember his name. I think it was like a very unique name. I think Byron or something like that, He says, I'm Byron, and I was speaking to you online. I'm like, hey, man, it's amazing to meet you. He had 6 friends with him, and
bro, his whole squad.
Whole squad, bro. And his dad was behind him, at a safe distance. His dad came and introduced himself. He said, I can't thank you enough for, even just taking the time to talk to him. I'm like, fucking no problem, man. I got nothing else going on in my life, But I loved talking to this little kid. I took them around. We had, I don't know if you remember Caffeine and Exotics, we had the whole section roped off, and it was the red carpet. And I took the stanchion away, and I let the kids go in, and they were like, yeah, like VIP, and they went in, and I showed them everything about the car and talked to them about the wheels and what makes this Ferrari better than that Ferrari and what makes this Mercedes better than a BMW. And, it actually took the time. I spent about an hour with them. And the moral of the story is that if you invest the time in the younger generation, okay, and point them in the right direction, the younger generation is so innocent, okay? They haven't been contaminated yet. They haven't felt the harsh realities of life as of yet, which again I think that it's a positive, and everybody needs to feel harshness in their life because it builds character. But again, if I'm able to build a relationship with those people, and to be quite honest, do you know how many parents are now Butler customers because I took the time to spend with their kid, and the kid left there and couldn't stop talking about it. And I have this whole group on DMs that are younger generation. And even though they can't afford our products now, these kids are eventually going to be driving. They're the future of our country and the future of our world. So why wouldn't you invest more in them? And so to answer your question, yes, there's always a business aspect. There's always ROIs. There's always KPIs. There's always spreadsheets. There's always, gross versus net. There's always, you have to make money in order to stay open. But it doesn't take a lot of time and effort to invest in the younger generation in order to maintain and secure longevity for your brand. And I think that a lot of people, I think Nike is one of the best brands out there that have done that, because they appeal to every single age, toddlers all the way up.
Always something to aspire to with that brand.
Exactly, and I think that the power of the brand is so huge that when you can have just a symbol that somebody made up. I mean, who the fuck knew that was? You know what I'm saying?
So simple.
Exactly. But you grow up, and at 3, 4, 5 years old, when you start comprehending your world around you, you know that fucking brand, And so being on social media, being on doing text ads, doing videos, doing, even our YouTube shorts, we evolve and we adapt, but we sometimes take a step back. We let everything sort of progress and start, and then we get together and we're like, okay, cool. How are we going to carve our little space within this new niche? And even like the shorts, it's funny because I'm an analytical person. I love numbers and I love looking at statistics and data, and that's so interesting to me. And my position at Butler has evolved to that of being an owner, as well as, fulfilling my duties as, V.P of Marketing. But to look at the reach that these platforms have is unbelievable. We launch a video and in 30 seconds gets 16, 18, 1900 views. It's like fucking holy shit.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of fucking people.
Sometimes people get lost in the numbers. I'm like, oh, it's 1,000 views. Like, that's a lot of damn people.
No.
I
believe that numbers can tell an amazing story. The issue with it is that you can manipulate numbers to say whatever you want, actually. The downside to going full digital, Matt, is that you are never in full control of your brand. At any given time, if Facebook, Instagram, any of the social platforms, even YouTube, decides they don't want to show your shit anymore, or they determine whether your videos or your content's getting the correct amount of engagement or view time and whatever other statistics they have. You saw this during the algorithm change with Instagram. You could literally destroy somebody's entire fucking life by changing the algorithm. All of a sudden, cooking classes is no longer Instagram's focus. Exactly like we went from posting pictures, which I loved on Instagram.
I miss pictures, by the way.
I think that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But again, it's the evolution. and if you look at it, it's so fucking sad. But me and Nick have tested out 45-second videos, 30-second videos, 3-second videos, 5-second videos, 7-second videos. The attention span of a fucking human being right now is that of a goldfish. You know, you're in an Amazon era where I click it, I want it at my doorstep the next day. It's a microwave sensation, you know, microwave world. And, you know, we often debate between the two of us, and Nick being my video guy, he brings a 7-second video to me and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, my brain doesn't have enough time to process what I'm looking at. And he's like, well, that's why it plays twice. And I'm like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. And I'm so focused on the angle and, you know, conveying the message. Because at the end of the day, yes, we make dope videos and we work on the dopest cars in the world. But if it doesn't generate business, we're wasting our fucking time.
Yeah.
You know, so, and how am I supposed to, that's why I said to you, likes cannot equate to sales, because how am I supposed to convey that message in 7 seconds? And say, I'm a great brand. I've been around for a long time. I offer the best products, the best service, and they're going to be expertly installed. How can I fucking do that in 7 seconds? I can do it, but what's the conversion rate going to be on that? And even if you double that at 14 seconds, I mean, it's just amazing. And so what are we going to get? I was listening to a podcast the other day about the
Neuralink.
Uh-huh. Okay. And it's like, yeah, you'll be able to process data in a second. Like, you're cooking chicken, you immediately know how to cook chicken. You know, is that where we're going?
I think so.
Where it's literally a blurb, and you have all the information that you would ever need.
Well, I think that we already have all that information that we ever need anyway. We just do this. We just do this drama of clicking a button. We're not actually clicking a button. We're just telling our finger, and our brain is telling the screen what to do. Yeah. We're just pretending to actually push buttons. They're not even real buttons. It's just a blank screen. We're just touching glass.
Yeah.
All they're doing is going to take away that motion. And they're going to go from direct from your brain to your phone, rather than like having to waste because someone's going to say, me pushing this button takes too much time. It's wasting my time, wasting my energy. So they're just going to put it straight into your brain.
I think... I mean, you fucked around with VR, right? With the Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, Nick, my video guy, gets me into this Oculus thing. And I'm like, no, actually, sorry, it was my nephew. My nephew got me into it. And, you know, I get on the thing and walk on the plank. And bro, me and heights, don't fuck around.
Feeling nervous walking that plank.
Bro, in fact, I know you've done it, but I got in the elevator, went up, the doors opened. I looked out, looked left, looked right. I'm like, nope, not doing it. Back in the elevator, yeah. And and then I did the space exploration and whatever. Anyway, talked to my video guy, and he's like, yeah, bro, I just got it, and there's this amazing golf game. And I'm like, fuck it, you know. So at that time, I think it was $199 for this thing. So I go and buy it, and the future, okay, and where this fucking thing is going,
you can see it.
AI is one thing, okay. I also sent Nick on a rabbit hole that he spent way too much time digging into. But I think AI plus VR is probably going to destroy the world as we know it.
Fry our brains.
I mean, I'm just sitting there and I'm playing poker with 5 other people. Okay. My facial expressions are being conveyed to them and vice versa. Their hand movements, they talking to me. And one of my best times is sitting down at the kids' tables, because kids are fucking hilarious and they playing poker, you know, and they have no fucking idea. And it's amazing the people that first come on for the first time and they're like, holy shit. Like, you know, and you can see like it's almost like they breathe life into this VR sort of platform. But, you know, the interface, like as you were talking about, is what amazes me the most, you know. And I lift up my hand like this and I got buttons over here, and you're looking at a person interacting with it and they're just sitting there going like that. And I think that that's the future. You know, dictation is a huge thing on your mm-hmm. devices. And I think that I'm not too familiar with Android, but what Apple did now with the dictation, that you can type while you're dictating as well, is amazing. Because I always found, and especially a person with an accent, the amount of time it took me to go in there and correct what it had put in error, it's just far outweighed me just typing it out myself. But now the evolution is so amazing. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is that we're going to be in this world where you either sucked into social media, and I always thought, it'd be awesome for somebody to put a documentary together where the documentary is from the perspective of the camera, and picking up on people's facial expressions. And as you said, you're not clicking on a physical button.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of glass.
Piece of glass.
Yeah, and the button's constantly moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think something interesting that you do, and I don't know how much you do anymore, but something you used to do, and I wonder why you don't do as much anymore, is that you used to go live a lot.
yeah.
And I'd go check in on your live, and there'd be hundreds of kids in there, hundreds of people in there watching you maybe show off a new car or a new product. And it almost feels like you kind of went away from that.
It's funny because
And personally, I thought that was really successful.
I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I see its place in the world, but it's so fucking time-consuming, Matt. And again, as time has gone on, my position has evolved. I'm responsible for the brand and marketing and every aspect of that, and generating revenue and making the phones ring and whatever. But at a certain time, you have to weigh in and see if your effort is worth the effort. Social media, unfortunately, lives on content. And if you're not posting regularly, you get dinged. And I used to sit there and build momentum and build engagement and build it and build it and build it. And then the weekend would come and I'm like, fuck, I need a fucking day off, And to be quite honest, coming up with captions and, it's a full-time position. And if you think about it, I've got Pandora Radio, and I've got live events, and I've got in-store promotions, and I've got online marketing, and I've got video productions and YouTube and social media, blah, 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 blah. All of these channels that in today's times, you absolutely need one person who's dedicated to that. Because to sit and answer all the DMs or answer your Google My Business inquiries, everything it's time consuming. And we do acknowledge and identify that people loved the behind the scenes. They loved that there were humans behind it. I landed up building a persona behind it and a personality, and then I brought cousin Craig into it, and then Gary came into it as well. And our employees loved when we interacted with them and they made it. I mean, our guys love, Matt, they love it when they make it onto video and they're on YouTube and they're at home and it comes up on the TV, and for us, it's about that, and we used to do it a lot, but then again, Instagram shifted from live, and it was no longer it was no longer relevant. Just like pictures changed, I think a lot of people want the pictures to come back, and I think that and gas motor cars is the perfect example. Gas motor cars may post a video here and there, but they've stuck to their guns.
Only pictures.
And
I always scroll through them.
And the engagement is through the fucking roof. So it's still possible, okay? You have to decide where you want to go with your brand and what you're going to accept as success and failure, okay? Because some people might look at getting 400 likes on a picture as failure, but in today's times, and you posting images and you getting 400 likes, that's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. And so with us, we just try to start evolving with the times. And is it a mistake? I don't like to look at anything as a mistake, but rather as a learning lesson. Do I think that we can go back to our core and post more pictures and do more live and everything and just be you? Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
because you guys have a videographer, you've mentioned him several times, Nick, who's actually here hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And so you do a balance between professional content and stuff that's considered more raw.
Yeah.
And it's my experience that you can spend hours and hours and hours just making the most epic professional content out there. And then your 5-second iPhone clip just goes viral.
Fucking annoying.
How do you decide where to dedicate your time? Because again, as a full-blown company with different marketing budgets, you want to do the best possible content you can. But sometimes it's that just random clip that took no thought, no planning, and just that's the one that goes.
It's twofold for us. First of all, we don't go out and shoot without a plan. Nick has a complete storyboard. He knows exactly where he wants to go. And now, thanks to AI, it's fucking insane what he's been able to accomplish. But deciding on going full production, it's so time consuming, Matt. To get that 1.5 minute video takes us 6 or 7 days. And that's at best. We've gone out on location, we've shot for days on end and come back and it's shit. You know, the shadows are wrong, the colors are wrong, the angles are wrong. We didn't get the shots but every single thing we approach with either brand recognition or how to promote the product in a specific way. And whether that requires a professional video or not is sometimes determined by the situation that we're in. You know, sometimes I'll go to Nick and I'm like, you don't need a full production on this car. Just take your iPhone and go and shoot this and we'll make it a reel. But I like to mix it up. You know, the production for us is, and different platforms have it. You'll never see long format videos being posted on Instagram anymore. You know, it's just not the right place for it. But YouTube still supports it, and there's still the audience out there. Our videos are anywhere between a minute and a half, and 2 minutes. You know, and at that point, I mean, we can see the drop off immediately at 30 to 45 seconds. So, again, if I'm out there like the F8 we posted recently, I dropped it off at the body shop for the customer, and I was just there, and I'm like, fuck it, let me just walk around. And I actually did the video to send to the customer to tell him that the car arrived safely. And then I'm like, fuck it, go on to social, post it up, put a song, a random song to it, and let's see, and it fucking annoys Nick like crazy, bro.
Because it blows up.
Yeah, and he's like, I just don't fucking get it. And if anybody can explain that, I think that the more human nature is involved, the more human the clip feels, the better. And that was the premise behind, I think, TikTok. That's why we failed at TikTok miserably. Okay, I think we have 600 followers over there. Our videos do not get interaction, and we just don't think that it's a platform. It's the same thing as Snapchat. You know, if we tried it, we attempted it, we tried to figure it out. Could we spend more time and resources understanding it? Absolutely. Is it worth it? No.
And you have enough going on.
I've enough going on. It just means that I can focus more on other things. So instead of Instagram just being a channel, I can give it 20% more because I don't bother with TikTok.
There's this idea that strip clubs are a good indicator on economy. If the strip clubs are empty and they're not getting paid, chances are economy is heading in the wrong direction. I argue that wheels are very similar in that category, where if the economy is good, people are buying a lot of wheels because they're expensive and it's not necessary.
It's a want, not a need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you see going on in your business? And do you think there's an indicator on how the economy is heading?
Look, it's early 2023. Okay. I think that there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how 2023 develops. I think going into 2022, very early on, we understood that this is going to be another fucked up year. You know, not anything that you knew or anything that was going to be the norm was not the norm, the same as 2020 was. I think that a lot of people are sitting back and waiting to see how this year develops. I think that, you know, the pandemic dictated the last 2 years, and that was enough for people to make a conscious decision of whether they were going to accept it or not. You know, there weren't people in the middle like saying, oh, I'm going to get vaccinated or not. I don't know. You know, either way, it was either you were going to do it or not. Yeah. You know, you either believed in the conspiracy, that there was a conspiracy, or you believed that, in fact, this thing was out there and it could kill you. As far as the wheel industry is concerned, we keep pushing forward, you know, and as cheesy as it sounds, people are still spending money.
But not at the same clip they were in 2020 and 2021. 2020 and 2021 was crazy, right?
Listen, we decided internally that 2020 and 2021 can't be used as a benchmark. We just can't. It was such an anomaly. People had an abundance of money for the right and wrong reasons.
A lot of PPP money went into tires and wheels. Oh, not tires, wheels.
Yeah.
A lot of new
watches,
fancy cars, watches,
cars, properties. The luxury industry
blew
went
up,
ballistic.
Yeah.
Okay. And listen, there's a lot of people who made a lot of money, and there's a lot of people who didn't, Matt. There's a lot of people whose companies were taken out from underneath them. They work fucking hard. They've worked hard. And during the pandemic, I don't know if you noticed, but we stopped posting on social media. It was just, there were people out there who had lost their lifelong earnings and workings. Their businesses were gone, and we weren't going to be those people who were touting, oh, look at us, we're still fucking rocking and rolling. And we were very, very, very sympathetic to the person who may have been struck in a bad way.
Socially conscious about kind of putting in their face.
You know, with that being said, 2022 was a big year for us, almost as big as 2021. In fact, exactly the same. We went into 2022 thinking there's no way that we'll ever come near the numbers of 21, and we did. We almost did identical numbers. And I think that what's happened is that through the pandemic, through price gouging, through shortages, supply chain, through people being innovative, I think that they set a new benchmark. And that I think that benchmark is definitely going to flow into 2023. Do I see that the numbers are going to come down and probably plateau and come back to reality? They might be closer to what we perceive as reality, but they'll still be higher than what they were in 19. But the wheel game, we're still seeing strong sales. We're seeing the manufacturers not slow down. Import is back to where it was. We're starting to see raw materials being cheaper, so the price is going to come down. The biggest issue, which is with a lot of business owners, even such as yourself, during supply chain issues, you were paying a premium for a product. Well, now there's an abundance of that product, which you could get for a lot less. You can't charge a premium to the consumer because you paid a premium. So you've got all this inventory that you're sitting at that you paid $100 for that's now valued at $60, yet you have to charge the same. But the person who's getting the new inventory is marking it up, you know, and be able to generate the same amount of profit as you by offering it for a lot lesser price. So what do you do at that point? You know, and I think that a lot of businesses are going to be faced with that coming into 2023.
I mean, right now it seems hard to hire people. Getting people to work, especially in blue collar type jobs, is very difficult to do. How has that affected your business? Do you see a difference? Is that something that, because cars is something that people enjoy working on versus, say, construction, which people kind of don't want to do anymore?
We work, it's very, very, very difficult to find people that are willing to put in the hours, the time, and the dedication to perform the job that we require of them at the highest level. It's very, very difficult. Our point of sale system is very, very old. You have to use your brain. You have to have some knowledge of fitments and sizes and availability. We don't have a plug and play solution, even though we're working on that, and that would make the salesperson's job a lot easier. But I feel there's two types of salespeople in the world. There's order takers and then there's salesmen. And order takers work behind the counter when somebody comes to them and says, I'd like this, this, and that, the next thing, and the person just inputs it in the computer, and that's fantastic. That's fine. It's a job. But in our business, we have salesmen who build value into the product and build value into the services, and the cost of doing business with us is far greater than anybody else, and we know that, and we have to be on point in order to justify what we're charging. So finding the right person who's willing to put in the hours in today's times is very difficult. And you can go to all your traditional channels, your social media, your Indeed, your LinkedIn, I signed up for LinkedIn and I regret it ever since. I fucking get bombarded with emails and, listen, it's a necessary evil, but it's very difficult to find staff. And, we work hard. It's funny, one of my friends contacted me and he said, hey, I've got this guy. He's super good with his hands, mechanical and everything like that. He's looking, for a job. And I said, oh, fantastic. We work Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. during summer. And then on Saturdays from 8 to 1 o'clock. And you get every second week, you get a full day off. And he was like, holy shit. Wait, are you guys slave drivers? And we're like, no, like this is serious business. This isn't open up at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Do it whenever if you think about it, Matt, each one of our stores does on average 650 to 700 cars a month.
Yeah.
You're talking about $28 to $3,000 cars a month. We've got huge expenses and huge liabilities, and we take this very, very seriously. And to find people that are willing to commit and willing, my uncle always had this famous saying, a small mouth and big ears. Stop talking and listen and absorb, and that's in our interview process and our work. I have two of the best business partners I've ever had, and we call ourselves the brain trust, because Craig is amazing at what he does and Gary is the best at what he does. And I feel I complement the three of us equally. But in our interview process, we will always ask a person, how full is your sponge? How much can you absorb? How much can you learn? Because it takes a lot of time. It takes about 3 months of investing our time, our efforts, financially, to be able to even get to a point where we feel that you're a good fit for the company. So we're hiring on your personality, your history, I think that there's a certain culture that thrives in our environment. And there's guys who have come in who we thought were great, and a day later are like, fucking, you guys are mad. You guys are crazy. I'm not working this hard.
Last week, I had a guy here, Scott Sellers, and he talked about his hiring process in his business. And he does something, I forget the name of the test, but he does personality tests for all of the employees. So they interview them. Once you get past a certain level, they have them take this personality test to see if they think that would be a good fit for the environment or what type of role they would excel in. And they put not 100% weight into that test and the results, but they do. And they take a look into how they would affect and how they would fit into the culture. Is that something you've ever considered?
Definitely. We recently merged with a much bigger company. We wanted to take the brand to the next level. During the pandemic, it was, either we implement efficiencies to be able to work on more cars, or we start opening locations. And we just didn't have the manpower ourselves to do that. So we partnered with a great partner to do that. They have an unbelievable culture within their business. And that was one of the biggest things for us, is that we wanted to make sure that our guys, there was a lot of similarity there and a lot of crossover as to their culture. And we feel we found the perfect partner for that. But they've shown us a whole completely different way of interviewing and what to look for and what not to look for. And when you consider how small the pool is of the people that are willing to do what we need them to do in order to thrive within our culture, there's no time for personality tests. If you just have the slightest inclination, and it comes down to a lot of gut feeling. Now, look, there's background checks and there's all that sort of stuff. And, we have an equal opportunity mindset and mentality. We'll never, ever turn anyone back or we'll never, ever turn anyone away. As long, we've always had the mentality, as long as you're willing to work hard and absorb things and are willing to learn, we have a home for you and we can work with you. In fact, one of our top performers used to be a pizzeria manager. And he came in and delivered a pizza, and the interaction with him and my cousin Craig was amazing. And Craig was like, you want to come work for me? And he's like, sure. So this seems cool. I'll come and work.
That was it.
Unbelievable.
Just gut.
Dude was never a car guy, ever. Like a sort of happy-go-lucky pizza dude, thriving in our environment. But again, you get people that think they can thrive, and we think that they can thrive too, but we find out very, very quickly that that's not true.
Do you think I could work a day at Butler?
I think you could. The difference between you, just quite a difficult. I've never been asked that before. I think you could definitely handle. I think you would have a different respect once you left that day, and a different understanding as to. It's all fun and games, Matt, but you putting your life in my hands, and there's a huge safety aspect to this. That's the side that people don't see. God forbid a wheel comes off. God forbid a tire blows up due to our negligence, and the liability is huge. I definitely think you could do it.
I think that may be a fun series for just totally random idea, but I bring in a lot of different business owners, and I think if I were to go work in that business for a day, just to see what it's really like and add perspective to it, I think that may be a fun series.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be down. I'll definitely start you in reception first.
Yeah, I mean, give me real jobs to do, and I'll do my best.
The thing is that I think that you would thrive in the sales environment because you're a personable person. Even though you think you're an introvert, you like cars and you understand it and you're passionate about it, and that's 40% of it. The rest of it is being a salesman. But on the same hand, if we had a point and shoot, a quote unquote point and shoot point of sale system that would allow you to just go in there and type in a VIN number and see all the options, I think that you would be able to do very, very well in that. But I would take you from reception. I would then put you in the bays, let you mount some tires and balance some tires, and have a whole new respect for what the guys do out there in the dead heat of the summer or the dead cold of the winter. And then put you on the sales counter, and bro, let's do it. I think that sounds fun. Definitely thrive.
I think I totally would try that. I think that's something we may be looking into the future to try different jobs for a day. I think that'd be so much fun.
Undercover boss.
Just like that, except it's not undercover.
Yeah. I think you know what I would love to be able to do, and it's such a good thing. And we always I'm always open to new ideas. Like I tell Nick all the time, I'm like, bring new shit to me. As crazy as it is, the brand is out the box. If everybody's doing everything over here, we on the complete opposite side doing our thing. But to have you come in for a day, experience it, and then come back and give us the feedback is invaluable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't put a price onto that because you're giving me a perspective of it as an outsider that's actually had the opportunity to be
what was
inside.
Difficult to learn? What do I wish the training process would have been different?
Yeah.
Where do I find maybe I felt like I wasted time?
The question is, do you think that you could handle being under Gary's thumb for a full? Not many people can do it.
It's just one day. I can deal with anything for a day.
I don't know, man. We've had people go to lunch and not come back.
I think that's a part of it, right? The idea that men need to do difficult shit and do uncomfortable things. And as uncomfortable as it is, just being able to deal with it and just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just all a part of it. So the crueler they are, the more uncomfortable the situation, I think that excites me even more.
Yeah, I think you would thrive in any environment. I mean, unless you want to go cut up fish or something.
I mean, I'll try that too. I'll try anything. All right, final topic.
Yes.
You and I play a lot of golf together.
Played.
Yeah. And we will. Oh, it's been a little cold.
Yeah, please. Fair weather golfer like Harrison. Only play in the spring between this week and that week on a Wednesday when the sun is exactly at 4 p.m.
Between 62 and 78 degrees.
Bro,
that's it.
Bro, come on.
Why do you golf?
The short answer of it is it allows me to disconnect. Even though we use our devices, electronics is a big part of the golf game today. The fact that I can answer my phone, I won't answer my phone. Text messages are not relevant. It's 4.5 hours for me to be with my boys and enjoy nature. I mean, one of the biggest attractions for me with golf, as challenging as it is how beautiful it is to be out there. And it's, typically the golf courses are carved out of, whether it be houses around or neighborhood or whatever. But when you get out into those rural areas, is it rural?
Rural. Sure.
Okay. But you get out into those areas where the courses are just so fucking beautiful. But for me as well, there's so many variances to this game of golf that you can go through instruction. You can go through hours and hours and hours of training, and then you can be standing over the ball and your thumb could be a quarter of a millimeter off from where it was. You swing exactly the same way and the ball goes in a completely different trajectory. It's a game that you will never, ever beat.
It's humbling.
It's very, very humbling. But I think there's people who look at it and they're not ready for the challenge, and that it's a lifelong challenge. I play, since I started in 2020, I think. And I'm like, this is the fucking coolest thing ever, get to smoke cigars and shoot shit with my friends. And I play every Wednesday afternoon, and Gary and Craig know that. The whole business knows that. Do not call me from 12 o'clock onwards on a Wednesday. I'm on the golf course. I play with the same dudes every time. I play the same fucking course. And every single time it's different, but it's my jam, man.
And non-golfers just don't understand. And it's really hard to explain to them, to relay that feeling of why it's so satisfying doing the same thing over and over and over again, because it's not. But it looks like it from the outside, that you're doing the same thing, walking the same course. And I always say, no, we're making different decisions on a continuous basis. And it's just as mental as it is physical, if not more mental.
I think the greatest saying is, the hardest part about golf is what's between your head. It's such a mental fucking game, and it's not a game that you can put down and then in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, a year, pick up and think that you're going to be out there. I've got friends that I play with, and look, I've got different groups, and I think that's another cool thing is that you have different groups that you play with, and some guys take it a little bit more serious. I know when I play with you guys, there's a little bit of gambling going on, and but for the most part, you give me shit the whole round, and I'm like, I don't know why I keep coming back for fucking punishment, but I play with a couple of guys that don't play often. And they get up there and they get frustrated that they're not getting the ball on the green, or they're not getting a bogey, and it's like, trying to explain to them. And I always maintain the day I stop laughing at myself and having fun on the golf course is the day I need to. If you play with me and you throw a club, you smash a club, throw your fucking toys, it'll be the last fucking time I'll play golf with you. The game is too pure for that, man. And it's so difficult that even the pros fuck up.
Yeah.
So for you to take it that serious, you can't. You're going to duff it. It's not how bad you play, it's how badly you played that day. Yeah. That's how good is your bad, is what Tiger Woods said,
I've played with you, and I've played with a lot of your friends over the last couple of years. And I'm going to say everyone I've met through golf has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal guys, all up and down the board. I can't say just good enough things about literally all of them. Like Jeff, I love Jeff. I think he's such a solid guy.
Jeff is he's literally one of my favorite people. He's much older than me. He's somebody that I confide in a lot. Super, super humble, which is amazing. Super successful, super humble. And we see each other once a week, and we text each other back and forth. But I've known him for 10 plus years. We've been playing golf since the day I started. In fact, we used to play this online golf game. Remember?
I remember you playing a lot of that.
I saw that he had connected his Facebook, and then we sort of reconnected after like not talking to each other for 5 years. And then we all met at Topgolf and started hitting the ball. And it was just after I played my very first full round. And he just said to me, he's like, hey man, why don't you come play around? And I'm like, I don't know, anyway, went with him. And, but I think anybody that you meet that I'm associated with are good people. You're a good person. anybody I allow into myself and into my life, and anybody that knows me personal, and again, it goes back to the persona between Butler and Dani in my personal life. I meet a lot of people. I mean, you claim a lot of people know me through the industry and everything, but there's a whole different side to me that not many people get to see within the industry, and I like it that way. I have, again, very, very, very strong morals. I have very strong beliefs as far as friendships are concerned. I do not take them for granted. Friendships take a lot of work. You got to invest a lot of time in them. And the minute you take them for granted is when they go south, typically. So the people that you do meet that are connected directly to me or know me personally, I've invested time, and I respect their time, and I respect how hard it is to maintain a friendship, because it could be gone in a flash. So I appreciate you. I really appreciate you saying that, and that's, I'm super proud to have the group of friends and the support system that I do have around me. My friends and I have been friends for 15 plus years, and that don't come easy. There's always ups and downs, and the friend group now, is amazing. Everybody's married, they got kids, and now the kids are friends, and it's a very, very cool thing. Even though I'm single and no kids, but I can get down with that vibe.
They say a person is a product of their group of people around them, their closest friends around them.
Yeah.
And if that's true, then and the people around you are an indicator of how you are, I think that's a really good sign.
I think it's important, man. If I meet you and you introduce me to someone and I'm like, fuck, that dude's a dick, and it's like, why would Matt hang out with him? Like that, it just doesn't make sense, and listen, you get those people out there. And again, I always say the same thing. I have good days and I have bad days, bro. There's days where I've ripped people's heads off, but it doesn't mean I love you any less. Like I love hard, man, and I make sure that people know that, and that they can rely on me, and know that I'll be there if in need.
On that note, I appreciate you coming out today. It was awesome.
It. Matt, thank you so much. Best of luck, bro. I know everything that you do specifically, I know is done properly, and the studio is amazing, and
awesome.
I can't wait to see where this channel goes and how it grows, and I can't wait to get you, me, Haas, and Harry on a podcast, and because I'll just sit back and watch you and Haas talk shit to each other all day, But
sounds like a plan. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, all right, bro. Thank you, man.